Welcome once again to the Tin Dog Podcast. My website is www.tin-dog.co.uk, not .com, and remember the hyphen, otherwise you'll probably end at some sort of design company. Anyway, welcome to this week's show. And before I start, I just want to say that last week I was all lined up to do a show. My plan was to do some sort of comedy cast where I would watch Eurovision, make some notes, and then imply that the episode of Doctor Who in fact was much longer than usual, that it had some sort of Terry Wogan voiceover, that Lordy were the aliens, and it was all fabulous. It was like sort of Love and Monsters, only good. However, I did watch Eurovision, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Eurovision was awful this year. But enough about that. I mean, you don't want to hear about the way that I thought that Sweden's entry was marvellous, and didn't all the countries that voted for each other used to be called Yugoslavia? I'm not going to get involved in politics. Eurovision's bigger than that, or is it smaller than that? Anyway, enough about that, because I think right now we need to be discussing the new episode of Doctor Who. 42 it was called, and it had very few Douglas Adams references. I can't say it had none, because let's face it, they were about to die in the heart of a blazing sun, a bit like Marvin was going to, but never quite got round to. Anyway, it's episode 7, it was delayed by a week, and you know, we all got a bit excited because, well, we were watching something really cool at the end of episode 6. Of course, what we were watching was all the great bits of the whole of the rest of the season. You know, bits of human nature, bits of this, bits of that. But what we got was, well, I don't want to say it was bad. I enjoyed it, it was nice. But let's put it this way. This weekend, I went to visit my parents, and my dad is a huge Doctor Who fan, or at least was many years ago. I mean, let's face it, he watched the very first episode when it was broadcast, and that is quite an achievement. But he did say to me that he'd stopped watching it, and it came as a bit of a surprise to me, or he only saw it when I was there. But anyway, it's not that bad. So we watched it together like we did when I was a child, and we took the mick like we did all the time. And it did feel like an old Doctor Who, but it didn't feel like it because we were watching it together. It felt like it because it was an old classic Doctor Who story. A bunch of strangers stranded, in peril, being bumped off for no adequately explored reason, and then the Doctor intercedes. It's the horror of Fang Rock. It's Planet of Evil. It's Robots of Death. It's a lot of Tom Baker stories. It's a lot of what people saw as, well, you know, Doctor Who at its best. Directed by a great director, with some reasonably good, well, actually some very good acting involved. But it kind of didn't grab you. It felt very much like a rehash of the one with the devil in last season. But of course, at least this time, the alien had the point of view, it wanted revenge, and Cindy Beale got to die by being sucked into space. Don't people explode anymore, or is that just my memory of the film Outland? Anyway, let's face it, we all liked it. But of course then there's the mobile phones. I know Martha's got a mobile, so therefore the Doctor will do what he did for Rose's mobile. I mean, let's face it, most people have them these days. So, he makes a mobile more, you know, compatible with everything in the universe. She can phone her mum at home, and of course, she can talk to, well, just about anybody. So of course, when the question comes up that she needs to phone her mum, you know, phone a friend, who had the most top 10 hits? Who had the most number ones, was it? Yes, who had the most number ones? Was it the Beatles or Elvis? Now you have to remember, this story is called 42. It lasts 42 minutes. Of course, it's like 24, only the other way around, which has been both backed up and denied by various members of the cast and crew, depending on which commentary you're listening to, or what making of. So, this thing's called 42. Everybody likes it. it's, he's got 42 minutes to save the world, and she phones her mum as phone a friend. Now, it's the 42nd century. You can't tell me that someone isn't going to come along and re-edit, re-release, or indeed mess about with Elvis or the Beatles. Come on, at some point in the future, somebody's going to mix them both together. Elvis versus the Beatles. You can't tell me that hasn't already been done on some music channel. And that gets to a number one. So I guess the answer never would be truly known. That's just me being picky. But to be fair, lots of us were being picky. And then, of course, there's the mysterious stranger, who was, of course, working for Mr. Saxon, and we've gone into Mr. Saxon. We've done the whole, oh, it's the master, oh, it's not, oh, he's the villain. I mean, let's face it, the chances are he's going to be the villain, no matter whether he's the master or not. That doesn't really matter. What does matter, of course, is that I, in the great interests of science, have typed into a computer search engine Harold Saxon to see what anagrams that makes. And we've come up with some rather interesting anagrams of Harold Saxon. Hand, solar, ox. And of course, that implies that he's working for the Naimon. Very important. I'm sure Outpost Gallifrey will go mad at the suggestion that it's not the Master, it's the Naimon in disguise. And of course, in the tradition of ancient Doctor Who monsters turning up, Harold Saxon is also a very good anagram of Axon's Lord, which of course implies it's the Master. I'm guessing that that's probably not going to go very down well on Outpost Gallifrey either. But there is this one, a lovely Stargate anagram, which is Ra, sold, and ox. That's Ra, sold, and ox. Sadly, that's Ra spelled R-A-H, so you can't really use that one. But hey, if it causes some arguments, let's go with it. Now, I know that some people like to email me, and, well, not many of you, to be fair, but some of you have, and I'm always grateful. I didn't exactly receive any emails from people saying, are you doing a show this week? Now, that's either because last week I said there wasn't going to be a show, or because, in fact, my listenership is incredibly small. So what I've done is I've gone into MySpace and I've created a group. I'll put the group link on the iTunes show notes and all that. And, of course, on the website, www.tin-dog.co.uk. Now, there'll be a link on there to the MySpace group where all of the, well, I wouldn't say fans, all of the listeners of the Tin Dog podcast can leave a message, can talk, if you're on MySpace. So, it's groups.myspace.com, so it's basically, you're on MySpace, you click the groups button, and the group's called Tin Dog. All one word, TINGOD. So that's groups.myspace.com/tindog. Join if you want, don't join if you don't want. See who else is listening. It's just an interesting thing. I thought I'd create it so that everyone could, if they wanted to, join in and chat. Of course, you are welcome to email me at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. I'll draw a line under this week's show, because, of course, it was a good episode. It was nice. It did look nicer in the previews. But then again, most episodes do. I am waiting for, the Girl in the Fireplace storyline for me. I'm hoping it's next week's. But then again, I'm sure I keep hoping that it's always the following week. Is that a worrying sign at the halfway point of the season? We have got the two-parter. Now that does provide me with a problem. You see, it's based on Human Nature by Cole Cannell, and if I'm going to read the book, which I've owned since the day it came out, I really should start reading it now, because my pristine copy of Human Nature is just sort of sitting there on the bedside cabinet taunting me, going, read me now, or you may never read me at all, and I'll just end up on eBay, and you wouldn't like that any more than me. Yeah, because obviously, books lie there on your bedside cabinet, taunting you at night. And with that mental image of me being tormented by a virgin paperback, I'm going to leave you now. I'll see you soon, and I'll speak to you after next week's show. Be seeing you.